Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name is Christopher Carey, and for today's session we'll be looking at Dstny's Call2Teams service. Today I'm joined by Scott Jenkins, who is the product manager for Call2Teams at Dstny. Scott, it's great to have you with us. Maybe just to kick things off, you could tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit about Call2Teams for those who aren't familiar.
Sure. I'm Scott Jenkins, the product manager and owner for the Call2Teams product in Dstny. I've been with the company now for coming up to 5 years. So back when Call2Teams was very fresh in the market, evolving from its original product of Call to Skype. And essentially the pandemic hitting the world as we knew it, Microsoft Teams became the core UC platform that everybody was evolving to use in a remote-based workplace. And the Call2Teams model of providing a middleware aggregation for any UC platform to then use Microsoft Teams as its endpoint for all of its calling, as well as its UC for other collaboration, became a market spinning product or turning product. And in a particular world where remote first was essential, and everybody had these UC platforms where their stacks were running on-prem, hybrid, and all of the endpoints were a mixture of handsets, soft phones, and everybody using different UC to communicate. The Call2Teams product in the market was a very simple add-on to that experience to then make Teams your certified endpoint for calling. And yeah, it was a fantastic launch of the product. The pandemic truly accelerated that on a global scale. And we saw all of these unified communication vendors coming to us asking for our help. And essentially what we did was we provided that middleware through their channel to all of their end users in a scalable and friendly manner, and enabled calling for millions of users on the planet for Microsoft Teams.
And looking at, diving into the challenges, what kind of challenges does Call2Teams address for UC providers integrating Teams voice?
I think the major thing that I've seen in the market is in unified communications, there's a lot of differences. While everything runs on SIP and everything is now VoIP based, the actual way that different platforms communicate with each other is still very different. And as we know it, in the market, session border controllers and gateways to bring the on-prem world into the cloud have always been a thing and have evolved very well. And I think we've took that one step further with Call2Teams in the fact that we understand every UC platform is different. And we wanted to provide an agnostic layer to that, where we can just act like a normal generic soft phone through the same methodology of SBCs and gateways, no matter how you connect to the internet. And again, bring that calling experience into Microsoft Teams through the certified process on that side of the bridge, but being agnostic on the left side, providing that capability to anybody in any situation.
And looking at the specific features, can you explain how AutoSync and zero-touch provisioning work, and what efficiencies can they deliver to partners at scale?
Yeah. So going back to the UC platforms that these users are on, we also saw in the market that there's many different digital journeys for these end users to enable voice, whether that's through a management user interface, backend professional services, or a bit of manual integration where they do some on-prem configuration with some instructions from PDFs, or again with professional services helping hold their hand through to onboarding. And with Call2Teams, we really wanted to build a product that could then fit into any sort of stack and onboarding journey. So through an extensive suite of APIs and multiple different authentication methods, we've built what we call the zero-touch provisioning platform. And what this does is it provides the ability for any management portal, any on-prem management systems to integrate with our systems and provide a seamless onboarding journey for them end users. So instead of having mixed onboarding processes with overhead on professional services, we can enable calling in Teams with a few clicks, a toggle here and there, and intuitive feedback for them end users, regardless of where they live and breathe day to day.
And how does Call2Teams, how does it enable a white label delivery?
Yeah. So again, in the market, as mentioned, we partner with tier one carriers and vendors of UC. And what we've seen is through the channel, they like to brand themselves and give their MSPs and ISVs their own flavor of voice. And we wanted to make that one of our core priorities with Dstny, but also with Call2Teams. And that's why we provide a full white label, as we call it, root and branch, all the way down to the end user of any brand, any flavor, all the way through from just domains in the portal, URLs, through to the actual voice aggregation domains, and the whole stack itself can appear as your brand and your own breed of your voice platform, so that we can align with your own user journeys, make the customers feel like they're inside your world end to end, and then also, again, present your brand in the market to promote yourself as being the true leader of voice integrations while we do all of the powerful stuff in the background.
And looking at the wider market, what kind of wider trends are you seeing, or do you see over the next 5 years?
I believe just like in the early days where the on-prem world met the internet and cloud, I truly believe that voice is going the same way. And a lot of people really don't understand that there is a huge on-prem base still there. And while that on-prem base is still reliable, still working and operating within its realms, it's evolving, and there is a need for complete UC in the cloud, as well as complete extensibility and aggregation into any other system. And with Call2Teams, while it's doing its core function today of aggregating voice into Microsoft Teams, we truly feel that by putting the customer inside our digital journey and providing that very native instant calling experience, we can evolve it into aggregating into other Microsoft services. And wherever Microsoft go and lead the way, we're right behind them. And with your end users in mind, we're going to ensure that that process and experience for them is as small and as simple as possible.
And looking back at specifically at Call2Teams, where do you think it currently sits in the UCaaS ecosystem, and how is it expected to evolve over, let's say, the next 12 months?
Yeah, one of our core values is we play well with others. So we are side by side or hip to hip with all of the UC vendors, and we treat ourselves as an add-on primarily. So we'll sit on top of any UC stack to aggregate their voice into Microsoft Teams. But we don't see ourselves as limiting it to that. We see ourselves as being any voice integration and any service that relies on voice as its backbone. We can integrate that into the Microsoft Teams ecosystem and further. And we believe that we always will sit as an add-on to any of them.
And do you see any further opportunities for this service to expand?
Yeah, as mentioned, we're completely global. I truly believe that we're going to see that evolve further into some of the LATAM markets and some of the Eastern Europe markets, which we've seen the US grow significantly, and that has been accelerated by the pandemic and primarily AI being a big driver in some of the US vendors of voice. But I believe there's now this other market, maybe South America, North America, in sort of Canada regions, where we're going to see more growth, and again, where markets are sensitive to pricing, we see that our product can also address the needs of them users who don't have much choice in the market on what they use as their UC platform. And we think Call2Teams can help there. Again, aggregating voice into Microsoft Teams, providing them all a consistent endpoint for calling. So as you've seen in the market, Microsoft are playing a lot of different games with their commercial bundles. We've seen Microsoft Teams Essentials. We've seen their calling plans as they've tried to bolt Teams phone system into them. And we believe they're going to go further there. They're going to keep trying to be competitive, offering different models for different users and different personas of users. And with Call2Teams, on the other hand, providing the aggregation of the voice into that ecosystem, we think Microsoft are really going to provide and accelerate markets where, again, cost is sensitive. So we're ready and waiting essentially. And again, with our aggregation model, with the flexibility of that aggregation through vendors, through resellers, ISVs, we think that the channel is going to open up further as Microsoft change them commercial models and start becoming more price sensitive to them end users. As we know, they had to decouple Teams Phone from some of their core enterprise SKUs and some of their on-prem ones, and we really think they are going to keep evolving them SKUs and them different models they have in the market. Again, thinking about the end user, thinking about the cost, and with direct routing being the staple point of connectivity into Microsoft Teams for voice, we really believe that's where we sit right now, providing that agnostic connection for voice.
So looking at these new markets that you mentioned, how do you see these evolving?
Yeah, great question. I think with Call2Teams, and again with the core focus of it being a channel-friendly product, we're seeing penetration into these markets further, and that's because we're seeing resellers on board with our product now. And that may be because Microsoft have started enhancing their learning documentation and skill set into resellers now, rather than just into tier ones. And what we're seeing is there's resellers coming on board who are confident to aggregate teams into their voice stacks. And with add-ons like Call2Teams, that's very easy to do. And I think it's now finally that light bulb moment where they're seeing how easy it actually is to support and to facilitate. And again, we are really being that true flexible agnostic aggregation for that, which is then also expanding their portfolio of UC that they can support and provide to. Again, with that agnostic connectivity, they don't have to be limited to a certain type of UC. So if they have a customer that has a mixture of infrastructure, whether on-prem, cloud-based or hybrid, with the Call2Teams add-on, they can actually support any of them end users for voice in Teams, and then go on to further enhance that customer's relationship and then get them into where they want their UC stack to ultimately lie with. So we're seeing that penetration early on now, and we think it's only going to evolve further.
So I think that's all we have time for today, but it's been a really great session, and I'd like to thank Scott for joining us. If you like this video, please give us a like and a share on social media, and we'll see you next time. I've been Christopher Carey for UC Today. Thanks for watching.